This is Marketing Uncomplicated. All right. Hello, and welcome again. Thank you. I have a special guest with us today, and what I'm thinking is going to be a unique conversation. Matthew Toboroff, who joins us from the gaming entertainment industry, is the co-creator of Citizen Outbreak, the trivia game that captures all the incredible moments that shaped and connected all our lives during the past few years, and I think still pretty much does. Hi, Matthew. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Sasha. That's a great lead-in. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, likewise. So I have lots of questions about where you started, how Citizen Outbreak came about, but please tell me, I mean, this was in the midst of COVID. I think what's wonderful about this story is a lot of people, chose to turn things around during such a dark moment in time. And I think that this is particularly an interesting piece because you generated something that I feel bring people together, obviously during COVID and post COVID. So tell me a little bit about how this idea came about.
Fantastic. So, my background, I'm in finance for lack of, that's kind of the good umbrella term for what I've done in my career. And, during COVID, like everybody else, my professional career was on hold uh, at the beginning phase, especially. And, we were sitting there in lockdown, going through the same exercise every day, watching one crazy headline, one crazy story come across, the TV, our social media, everything, one crazy thing after the other.
Yeah.
And at the time, Rudy, my partner and co-creator in Citizen Outbreak, just prior to COVID, had linked back up, and we're on the chat together. And so we're sitting there on our respective, sofas, watching everything go, transpire across the TV. And I said to him, how's anybody gonna ever remember any of this stuff? It's so crazy because it seemed every 15 seconds they were moving us on to the next, unprecedented, incredible, crisis, and something that meant everything 10 seconds ago all of a sudden didn't mean anything next. And we just kept moving on. And, a lot of this stuff, it just should be remembered, right? I mean, it was an incredible time. So, I sitting there thinking about how are people going to remember, it just came to me that, you can do this in the game sense, creating a time capsule. I mean, another huge component was that, whereas in the beginning there was this maybe, feeling of we're all doing the same thing, we're all in it kind of together. It was a lot of the hashtags you saw running around, but then,
Yeah.
as time developed, like it happens with everything else, politics set in, people kind of attached themselves to whatever narrative they wanted to, and went into their, respective camps, and then really people stopped talking to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly in the sense, they not having open conversations really, if it didn't enforce the narrative that they supported, they didn't want to hear it.
Yeah.
So you had this dynamic going on where I think there was so much crazy stuff happening, and we wanted to come up with a way to create a time capsule and record everything that was happening. But then also, how do I get people from these different camps to maybe talk, and entertainment? You have
Mm-hmm.
to give them something that kind of like a Trojan horse fuel. If you can entertain people, you can keep their attention. And so we looked around, thought through it, and came up with the idea for a game. And I called up Rudy. I said, "Look, I want to create this game. What do you think?" And he started looking into it, and we both got very excited about the idea of putting together this trivia game that would, serve as a good messenger, if you will, to document and preserve all the madness and wild things that happened during that time,
Yeah.
and also maybe hopefully get people together to be able to talk and relate. So.
Now, did any of you come from a gaming background, or you maybe just played games with the family, or it was just like that was in your opinion, the best way to kind of document and keep things down on
Well,
paper?
yeah, no. So neither one of us have any background in terms of working in the industry. Rudy has four incredible daughters, and
Yeah.
he's very involved and has games laying around. So when he said, let me look into it, he was really, looking around his house, I think was the place he started. But no, neither one of us had ever worked in the industry. So, we started, I looked up where some of the top games manufactured and found some phone numbers and started calling around to different manufacturers.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing thing because one might think that because of the advent with technology and the iPhone and everything going digital, that physical games have, kind of gone away. The reality is it is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is really geared in terms of supply chain and everything to really allow entry by the mom and pop. I mean, the type of people like me that had an idea and wanted to create something. So we found a manufacturer, and they then put us in touch with somebody in their ecosystem. Another company did prototype work,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was in. I had so in November 2021, or 2020,
Maybe 20.
2020, sorry,
Yeah, 2020.
2021, 2020. Well, yeah. Anyway, we were we were going to. We said let's meet in a
Good thing
month.
it's been documented, right? Because
Right,
we're
it's been
already
documented.
forgetting.
Right, so well, it was 2021, sorry, November 2021 was when we said, let's put this together.
Yeah.
And we said we would meet 1 month later with as many questions as we could, because we had been thinking about how to construct, what the game
Yeah.
would be. We needed the content. So Rudy and I, we split off. We said we'd meet at his house in a month with as many questions as we could.
Yeah. Did
You know,
you,
we
not to interrupt you, did you do any research prior to look at like other trivia card games and see how they
Yes.
construct? Which ones did you look at?
So there were a few things, right? So first it was what do we really want to accomplish here? And it
Yes.
really was this, the idea was to create, a conversation starter and the ability to connect people and get people to start talking. So
And
there,
you and unity between both parties, right?
right. I mean,
Yeah.
really, this wasn't us coming in trying to press upon anyone our, preferred narrative or our politics or our ideology. This was really, we want to put something out there where somebody, can use this game as a
Yeah.
means to connect with someone else that maybe they're not. I mean, there were all kinds of stories of family members not talking to each other or
Yep.
having tense interactions, and that was upsetting. So, yes, to your question, we did look up a bunch of different games. I mean, I looked at, what is it?
Citizens of Humanity
Citizens of
or Cards
Humanity,
of Humanity, I think. Yeah.
Cards of Humanity. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, Citizen.
Yeah.
That has nothing.
I'm
But I
I'm
looked.
pulling off of your name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cards Against Humanity or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We looked them up as a starting point in terms of like just thinking about it. But that's really that that wasn't really like a trivia game. That was really just trying to put conversation starters into the mix. Was good.
Narratives, yeah.
Yeah, narratives. We looked around and we came to trivia, right? Multiple choice trivia, because it provided a good way to, maybe on different topics, put it out there and create, opportunity for comedy by, in the multiple choice answers. And it kept it simple. I mean, we didn't want to overcomplicate things. We thought by just putting the content, putting some funny stuff in there,
Yeah.
to add to it, and then just touching on with the content stuff that did, resonate with people, right? Because we all can remember. I mean, you mentioned Tiger King to somebody,
Yeah.
and there you go.
Oh my
They usually
God.
smile when they think
Yeah.
about it, right? And if you can get them with that,
Yeah.
then they're in a little bit, because all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is funny. I remember that, and we all
Yeah.
do. Whether you were in Pittsburgh, Paris, New York, or Sacramento,
Wherever.
or
Yeah.
wherever, that resonates with people. So it was really more about finding what content would elicit a reaction like that,
Yeah.
and then working out from there. So yeah, so we started coming up with
Coming up with
questions
the
and content,
questions. What did you
and
do? Did
then
you get like help from family, from friends? Did you like
no.
Google it?
No, we didn't talk to any people outside about what we were doing. I mean, this was
Yeah,
we weren't in gaming. I didn't want to talk about this. You know, I wanted to really keep this
siloed.
in the sense that it starts to. I didn't need any outside opinions on what was going
Yeah,
on
yeah,
to infect my process or affect my.
fair.
I was very excited about it, and we both were. So it was really kind of kept us, and then we started talking about design
So
and
you and Rudy basically did all the research from the questions
yeah,
alone.
I mean,
Wow.
this also starts from we were hyper, right? I mean, there was different level of engagement
Yeah.
throughout throughout the time, right? And always, right? People during that time, and I find throughout, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went by, depending on how engaged you were. We happened to have been sitting there very engaged in what was going on. We fell into that category,
Yeah.
and so we were, and you just, I guess we had already been. If we look back on our chat, there was so much stuff that we had been flinging back and forth. So yeah, we did it all ourselves. We did the research. We went back, and we started this process. And then we started talking about design.
Yeah.
You look across before we even really got to because our first conversations with the manufacturer, you have to show up with something, and we
Yeah.
were there. So we started talking about design and theme, and we shared some sketches and stuff. And then Rudy's daughter Ariana, who is at the time 12, 13, she did the artwork. So
Oh,
we shared
wow.
concepts with her, and
I have it
she's
right here.
fantastic. She
Yeah.
did she did the artwork of the game, and the game artwork. If so we it
It's really
on
well
the
done.
right. So the
Yeah.
idea is that we've got our hero, citizen outfit going through. He's got his mask on. He's carrying a paper bag of paper towels and toilet paper. We all remember,
What was missing off the
the
shelves?
original crate. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He's running up a highway that has 6 feet, 6 feet
Distance.
distances. Remember that.
Yeah.
Here's the UFO saucer in the top corner. They did tell us that UFOs existed somewhere in the middle of the last few years, and everybody just kept going. Like nobody really stopped to think about it.
Yeah.
We've got the circles in the field, if you remember, for the social distancing, the people sitting there
Mm-hmm.
on the field. We've got the ship that came into New York Harbor to provide extra
Wait, so in
capacity.
Central Park there were circles in the field?
Yeah, there were well, Central Park was So in they tried this in a bunch
Yeah.
of different fields across, and they put these big chalk
Wow.
circles for distancing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then the tagline is to I am, you are, we are Citizen
Mm-hmm.
Outbreak is really because we all went through this together and are going through this together, and so that was really all to the idea was to put this all on the board. So uh, yeah, so we met, we had the questions, and
Month
then
later.
a month later we had the questions. We got to our prototype company, and gave them our ideas, our design. We had our graphic designer that we had found, and we took Ariana's artwork, we put it onto the game, and by March 15th, actually, funny, ironic date that we ended up getting the delivery, because that's when they first did the lockdown.
Yeah.
We got March 15th, 2022. So just a few months later, we had our first prototype,
Yeah.
which was super exciting.
That's awesome. I mean, in the set, well, how did you? So I know that there was a Kickstarter component to this.
Yes.
I want to before we dive into that, there obviously is like the green and sorry, not the green, the blue and the red cards. So when you actually had people come together, did they identify like I'm, on the red
Oh,
or I'm
so
on the blue or
So it's funny, it's funny that you bring that up because
yeah,
when we were deciding, so the way the game is, there's two different categories.
yeah,
There's all things viral, which is the red cards,
yes,
which is all things viral play on, viral, but it's really, that is kind of the pop culture category, right?
yeah,
Everything that went viral, right? From Tiger King to
yeah,
the funny, every other funny story that happened, those wild monoliths that were popping up everywhere that actually just started popping up again. There's the UFO stuff,
Yeah.
every kind of pop culture
Component.
crazy headline that went into it. That's more in the all things viral category. And then the blue cards that you're talking about follow the science.
Yeah.
So you remember that everybody was saying during their follow the science, follow the science.
Yep.
That category of trivia is more related to the, COVID and other public
Got it.
health,
Okay.
component of what was going on. So there's more
Okay.
stuff in there that deal directly with, COVID and COVID type trivia.
Yeah.
There is, so, the gameplay, we didn't overcomplicate it. We really look at this as a conversation starter, a way for people to get together and have fun with,
Yeah.
so there's also, though, the, in there, there's a couple of Joker cards. There's the lockdown card,
The
which if you
booster
pull
cards.
yeah.
Yep.
So if you pull a lockdown card, you miss 2 turns.
Okay.
And if you pull a booster card, you get 2 turns.
Oh, you get two turns. You move
Yeah.
forward.
Right, you get
Yeah.
to, and the highest score wins. There's a lot of content in the base game. There's 125 questions in each category,
Yeah, and then
and
you guys
then
came out with supplemental 100 additional questions after.
yeah. So there's one can get the surplus pack, which is what you have,
Yeah.
and one can also get the hoarder pack. The hoarder pack has
Yeah.
50 extra questions, and the surplus pack has 100.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
great.
there's a lot of content.
Yeah, a
I
lot
mean,
of
it was a very
content.
content rich time, So, and I think part of the in coming to how much content we were putting into the game, I think part of that was really we didn't want anyone to feel like that opened it up like this was something that was pushing any
Yeah,
kind of one
one
thing.
side. Yeah.
So the more content there, and this this really is. There is no loyalty or allegiance to any one concept, thing, party, political ideology, or anything else. This
Yeah.
really is
Everything
trying
in
to
a
be
nutshell.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's
in
fantastic.
one box for everyone.
Yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah.
So when you guys were sourcing your manufacturers, and I mean that's great that you guys, I mean, in marketing we always talk about like leverage those that are around you that can support you as a small business owner. So you got Rudy's daughter to design the creative, which I think is just fantastic because it tells a story. And then, how did you go out and get and source your graphic designer? Like, did you have mishaps? Like you hired somebody, it wasn't a fit, you went out and hired somebody else, or even with the manufacturer, like what was the kind of
Oh, well,
the
yeah. I mean,
path?
there were, like I mentioned, this was a totally new foray
Yeah,
for Rudy and I. So
as it
we
is like for
didn't,
most people who start
right.
anything.
And so, yeah, so we definitely had, made some mistakes, but not, I mean, learned from different moves. I mean, but in graphic design, Rudy had owned a media business
Got it.
in the past and had used a very talented graphic designer there that we were able to
Leverage.
leverage.
Yeah.
What was funny was that people still weren't different for me. People weren't working, together, right? So a lot of it was remote.
Yeah. And
But we lucked out. The graphic designer we Rudy
great.
had a past relationship with, having worked for the company for him at the media business, and then obviously family members are good, so
Yeah.
we really lucked in that sense. Production wise, the prototype, there was just learning different parts of it. I mean, the prototype, this industry actually
Yeah.
is really set up to accommodate the newcomer,
Yes.
which is pretty interesting. I mean, the gaming industry. So, touching on and Kickstarter is an important component of
Yeah.
this, right? So in researching the industry, we came across Kickstarter. Now, Kickstarter is a crowdfunding site, which conceptually I was very aware of back then, but
Mm-hmm.
diving deeper into it, Kickstarter is where this gaming industry really
Thrives.
lives, thrives. It is a multi-billion-dollar a year the gaming industry on that platform and other crowdfunding platforms. So, uh, that looked like a logical place because the way that, the holy grail of the gaming industry and crowdfunding is something called Exploding Kittens, which was a game that
Okay.
launched on Kickstarter. Now, when you're doing a crowdfunding and Kickstarter, you asked about things we learned and everything. So Exploding Kittens, if you Googled it, raised something like $9 million in 3 hours, okay,
Okay. Okay.
on Kickstarter. So there's a few things. The gaming industry for people, it's a marketplace Kickstarter that brings creative ideas, I mean, at various stages of development to the consumer,
Yeah.
right? Through
Yeah.
pre-orders and what have you. Now, the way that it works is you really have to create with each idea as the creator, you have to create excitement and, connectivity and networking around your individual campaign site
So
on
you're doing
Kickstarter.
that yourself. Kickstarter is not helping you with it.
Well, you submit
Mm-hmm.
your idea,
Yeah.
right? And one great thing about this is that there's plenty of case studies, right?
Yes.
You can go and see this one. Okay, we look at this one. It raised X. It did that. I mean, you can see what succeeded and what failed.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you don't have to reinvent the wheel on. So we saw those. We had graphic designer, put together our campaign page, having, as reference the ones that we thought did the best. Now I mentioned this Exploding Kittens.
Yeah.
Again, so you get approved by Kickstarter to be on the platform, and then you can launch your preview page,
Yeah.
which is where, coming soon page.
Yeah.
And then the idea is you have to set a funding target, right? In our case, you set a funding target. Now you want to beat that funding target as quick as possible, because if there are different metrics that are followed. Kickstarter takes 5%. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place
No,
here,
no,
but
I'm following.
Kickstarter takes 5% of every project, of all the funds raised by any given
Once you
campaign
hit
on its
it.
site.
Yeah. Do they give
So
you a little bit of advice just to kind of dig in a little bit to Kickstarter? Because
yeah,
I mean, when you guys are coming up with like a threshold of like what you want to reach, are you coming up with that on your own? Obviously covering an
right.
expectation of how many you think you're going to sell, like covering production, covering any other things, whatever it is. But did you guys do it to cover or also to, I guess, make profit from it from the get-go right out the door?
So, in looking at this, I mean, one thing that was attractive to us about the industry, I mean, it is paper,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So once we did get our concept finalized and ready to go, and now we could talk to the manufacturers about what was needed. Yeah, you bring, ahead of any Kickstarter, we got an understanding of what the production cost would be for
Yep.
various volumes. Okay, and the great news is on the exciting news on paper good games like these. Once you hit a certain volume, in case of the paper goods, it's pretty low. You get to very, very exciting high margins of profitability.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and you didn't have to reach such a high volume to reach those margins. Reason why Kickstarter, there were a couple of reasons why the idea of crowdfunding on Kickstarter were extremely attractive. One was, as I said, this really is where these games get awareness. The average person, they like a game. Potentially, they see something about, they think it's about COVID, these crazy times. They see the game on their way out of shopping for other stuff. They'll be like, oh, it's, that's not going to break the bank. Let's get it. It looks fun.
Yeah.
That's one category of person. But then you go to Kickstarter. There are people that the same way one might be on Facebook all the time or Instagram all the time.
Community.
There is a, right, that's the word. There is
Hmm.
a loyal and engaged, extremely sticky community
Yeah.
on Kickstarter. So we're launching a game. We're looking this up. This is where this industry is born. We need to launch on Kickstarter for a marketing purpose also, because if we can get,
Part of that
promote
community.
part
Yeah.
of that community, that'll put us in great position. So
Yeah.
you know,
Because you can start
having
to
looked
get people, donating to, or it's not the word donating, or like supporting your cause or supporting the product,
backing, yeah, is
backing your product, who don't even know you, just because the Kickstarter has built an amazing community, as you
so
say.
you bring up right there.
Mm-hmm.
We actually capture something very interesting. So there is a formula on Kickstarter,
Yeah.
right? I mentioned a few of the pros. The pros are you have case studies everywhere. Does Kickstarter help? There is no end to content that you can read, manuals, advice. There's YouTube channels of people that have done it with all kinds. There's paid for. I mean, if people want to go that route, there are agencies that specialize in creating the
Start
look
to
and feel
finish.
and
Yeah.
start to finish. We didn't want to go that route, but we thought we could build something,
Yeah.
follow, look at what's worked
They
and
basically
not
give you
work.
the
So
tools to support.
they give you a lot of the tools, and look, it's because of the size of this community and the engagement. I mean, there's all kinds of supplemental consultants and agencies that one could, if they were so inclined, to go hire. What we did was we took our graphic designer, we looked at it, we built what we thought was a very good campaign page and video that followed the template of those that worked in the past.
Yeah.
And your general understanding, if you go and you research what works, what doesn't, you set a funding target. Now, our funding target was not tied to what we knew we needed to hit certain production capacity. Our funding target was tied to that, knowing that the way they don't tell you exactly how the algorithm works on
Yeah.
Kickstarter, but
Yeah. Your
there's
secret
enough
sauce.
content to read. Right, but the idea is you want to pick a funding target, as we understood it. The idea was that you want to pick a funding target that you can beat fast, because once you beat it, that's one of the metrics, speed of funding and did you hit your funding goal.
Yeah.
You want to get beyond your own backers, right? Where it's like, I call you up, I call and ask you to bring 10 of your friends. I call my parents, my sister, everybody there that's inclined to, help their friends. We want to get as many of those as our early backers that come with us out the gate
Yeah.
and help us as fast as possible achieve our funding target,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because if we do that, then the hope is the algorithm sees that and then promotes us into broader visibility on the platform.
That's great.
So now that community, and you touched on that, like there are people. What ends up happening, and if you were to just go on Kickstarter right now, you'll find no end of products that might not even have a physical product yet. There's an idea. There's
Yep.
one case of a guy that put a book out and raised millions. So the idea is that we get beyond, Matthew and Rudy's network of people that got involved earlier. Predominantly, yeah, they might be interested in the game, but it's like, okay, I like them. Here's $10 or $20. I want a game.
Yeah.
And it gets into this thing where Joe Smith goes on to Kickstarter like he would normally do at 10 a.m. and sees something trending. Oh, what's this? And then they jump in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So that's the
Kind of
and
roadmap.
if you get up there, it can get extremely exciting.
Yeah.
Right. Because like I mentioned, Exploding Kittens as the Holy Grail, that's a game that kind of retweaked Uno using kittens and some kind of, but they were amazing at creating. They were doing things. Actually, some of the things they did got removed, like ideas to bring engagement.
Yeah.
Got removed from the rules, but they didn't do it. They did everything within the rules.
Yeah.
But basically, the idea is to create as much excitement and get people to come to your page as much as possible. They did incredibly creative things. It's a great thing to read about.
Yeah.
I would recommend. So we tried to remember that there were some challenges that we ran into on Kickstarter. I don't want to focus on the negatives too much, but our game and our game, given the title and the timing that we came out in,
Yeah.
I think attracts some preconceived notions. I mean, I know it does.
Yep.
People thought, there were two different sides to it. There were those that thought, oh, great, they're making fun of COVID. I hate all that COVID stuff. I like these guys. They're probably like, very anti this, that.
Yeah.
And then there's others that are like, oh, great, it's making fun of that. We love those guys.
Yeah.
In reality, we designed everything to sit in between those two people.
Yeah.
But, there were some wacky things that happened on Kickstarter where we people weren't finding us in the search functions. And,
Yeah.
I don't want to get trapped down in some negative stuff, but there were stuff like that. But ultimately, that's why we did launch on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We did beat our target goal in the first like few hours.
That's fantastic.
We never kind of gained the broader visibility that we wanted.
Yeah.
We did raise on Kickstarter $23,000 that went towards that first production run.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so, you know, it was a success. And you know, it's very fascinating, the
Yeah.
Kickstarter universe.
No, I mean, I totally think it is. And I think, I mean, even though you touch up on and you're like, oh, I don't want to get into the negative, I think sometimes the negative is important because
Yeah,
it's not always going to be like a clear path forward. And there's going to be road bumps and hiccups that you're going to have to
absolutely.
kind of like jump through and hurdles that you're going to have to get through. Specifically also with like a conversation piece like this, which has a controversial, um, like both positive and negative. I mean, however way you look at it, as you say, you know, and it's like somebody can, you know, art is very subjective. And so somebody can take a look at it, zero in on one particular piece on it, and then just kind of make their own mind up about what it is, you know? So I think like it is amazing because you guys persevered, you pushed through, even with a conversation piece that is controversial. You made it on Kickstarter. You raised quite a good amount of money to kind of get you guys through your first round of production. Did you guys do anything post that in terms of marketing? I mean, did you create like campaign ads? Did you, I know
Yeah,
that you
so
were very heavy up on social media as well throughout the time,
yeah,
but
so sorry, yeah.
no, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was excited. So, you know, look, the reality is, you know, you have to remember moment in time at that time,
Yeah.
just mentioning COVID.
Hmm.
There were a few things. One, there was also an exhaustion about it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, as we move towards now, we're in 2022. There was just, there was like,
Subject fatigue.
you know, subject fatigue. Exactly. That was there. Then there was, you know, you mentioning COVID anywhere was, you know, you no first on social media, mentioning COVID even in the right kind of sentence, you might get a warning from the site. I
Yeah.
mean, there was
Hmm.
definitely guardrails that were ambiguous, but you knew just, you got to be very careful about mentioning COVID. I mean, so we had the we finished the Kickstarter, and one thing we figured out after was timing was a real component here on a few fronts, right?
Yeah.
Um, we were, you know, we got lucky, right? So we had this, we were able to, Fox News, this great reporter at Fox News, Kerry Byrne, we got in contact with him, and he said he wanted to write a story about what we were doing.
Yeah.
And this was ahead of the Kickstarter account, right? Going live. And I thought he was going to do maybe like this little blurb. He did this wonderful story. I shared it with you.
Yeah.
And when that hit, we had started our Instagram page already. And we were growing pretty, it was exciting, right? It was really encouraging. We got up to something like 3,500 followers in 2 months. And we were growing. And then this article dropped, and we started, like that day, we were getting hundreds in. But then we saw something funny. We saw that, you know, stories we were doing that were used to get hundreds and hundreds of views, all of a sudden we're getting 17 views, 24 views, like,
Yeah.
and so we didn't know, you know, and neither Rudy nor I are extremely social media literate at this time at all. But we knew something was going on, and of course, we're, you know, shadow banned, saying that word, you know,
Yeah.
and, you know, we brought in some friends, contacts that were more literate, and they looked at it, and first thing they said was, "What are you, crazy? You got the word COVID everywhere around on your page.
Yeah.
You can't do that." And there's no cursing in our game. There's no profanity whatsoever. There's no, like I said, we're really, I feel pretty good. We're not pushing any politics here. Even, you know, and,
Super
but
family
there was,
friendly.
you know, there definitely was, wonky stuff going on with the Instagram. You remember the
Yep.
timing. So we went back, we scraped the word COVID from every single post. We erased certain posts, even if they performed well.
Yeah.
And we dug back in trying. Now, timing was interesting because we had a pretty good size here and people that wanted. Now, they didn't have a product to get yet,
Yeah.
right? And it was kind of like we planned to go live in September 2022 because we were still making tweaks to the prototype. I mentioned we got the first one March. Summer we thought wasn't the best time. People are away. They're not at a desk necessarily every
Oh,
day.
I would think like
And
summer because they get to like take it on vacation and like that kind of stuff. So,
well, I'm talking, so we didn't go to mass production yet,
okay.
right?
Okay.
So we were thinking, let's go live in September. And part of it is we want to build up excitement in order, like I said, so the idea was you have to
Yes.
build enough of an interested crowd so that they show up on Kickstarter to
Purchase.
support the campaign,
Yeah.
right? To make the purchases. Otherwise, we launch and nobody knows who we are and we don't get more than a few people.
Yeah.
So we figured, okay, we've got a few months to go build interest and community around Citizen Outbreak, and then we launch in the beginning of September when everybody's back from the summer, and so that's why we picked it. Now, in between June and September, we got a few more great press exposure events. We had the article on Fox. We had an appearance on Tommy Lauren. Certainly, like I think a lot of that crowd, like I said, some of the
Started
preconceived,
to pull
they
together.
were
Yeah.
well, we got some incoming from there, but we didn't have product for them to purchase yet.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was,
But you're creating
Kickstarter, like,
awareness around it and
we
buzz
are,
and
right?
hype.
But it's this concept, there's a few things. Then the next thing about Kickstarter was for that big community, that population of people that are fluent in Kickstarter and traffic the site, it's all intuitive. For those that aren't, there's a process, multiple, like you have to go in order to participate in the campaign, you have to have an account.
Yeah.
So first we've got to tell somebody, take time out of your day, go create an account on Kickstarter in order to participate a month later, 2 months later in our campaign when you can pre-order the game.
Yeah.
And it's, keeping somebody's attention, even your friends and family that
Oh, for
want to
sure.
support you, those are firewalls, like, multiple clicks.
Yes.
And we put out content, how to, and explaining Kickstarter. We thought, well, this one's going to explain it real, but we were getting back a lot. Look, just tell me when I can buy the game.
Yeah.
And
What was the best
that
way
was
to remind people? Like did you collect emails or was it just?
we did emails.
Okay.
We collected emails. We blasted out emails. We had the social media
Yeah.
going on where we created all kinds of content trying to educate people about Kickstarter and how to do it. And it was tough. Like I would go and create accounts for people, and I'm talking about our closest friends and family.
Yeah.
And so you go beyond that ring to the next one. Getting somebody to like spend 5 minutes, 3 minutes creating things, clicking through different things is a big ask.
Oh yeah.
And that's just the reality. So that was a challenge. Then when we launched on Kickstarter, that challenge remained because all of a sudden now people that, said they had signed up, they didn't. Or once they got into you said a few minutes ago, you said something about funder, backer. We talked about term.
Mm-hmm.
The terminology on Kickstarter is very specific. And it doesn't say purchase the game. It doesn't say, it says, there's different levels of backing and pledges.
Pledges.
Right?
That's right.
So, and getting somebody to understand just to navigate that when, they don't want to be here. They don't want to be doing, even if they really are excited
like, what
to
is
support
this now?
us.
Yeah.
They're like, how do I buy a game?
Yeah.
And so these were things, that did, those are just
Barriers.
natural challenges.
Yeah.
They're natural. Those were like the fun, they were frustrating at the time, but there were also things that we thought we could work through. We just got to figure it out, but it was tough.
Yeah.
And especially timing, which is a huge component of launching any product, right? How you play with the timeline.
Yeah.
Was because, like I mentioned, we got this fantastic exposure, before we had product to move, and really before while we were in process of trying to figure out all the different complexities about getting people to get fluent with Kickstarter and delivering all of that in one sitting. It's tough because I got to tell you about the game. I got to tell you about Kickstarter, which is a whole universe. I lose you.
Yeah, for sure.
So those were some of the challenges, and that's why we had this runway where we thought we could deal with and build up community.
of community. Post Kickstarter, I mean, such knowledgeable information on Kickstarter. Thank you for that and getting in deep into that. I think it's an amazing platform. But post that, in terms of launching, I mean, obviously people can still go buy it from Kickstarter, but are you like where are you guys located in brick and mortar stores?
So right now, we went from Kickstarter and immediately launched our own site.
Yes,
People, we have a direct to customer, we're on our own website,
DTC.
citizenoutbreak.com.
Yeah, direct to consumer.
Everybody, right, direct to consumer. People can go on Amazon, and get us there.
Yeah,
Citizen Outbreak is on Amazon. On Instagram, we set up a shop so people can go directly to our
click
Instagram
purchase.
page
Yeah,
and purchase there. We didn't yet go into brick and mortar.
yeah,
When you do, well, a few things. When you do, you give up a lot of margin.
yes,
And we thought let's try and really develop the D2C platform first, and before we go into the
yeah,
brick and mortar guys. I think we're still, as we talk now, we're sitting here kind of reevaluating and getting ready to hopefully launch another campaign for social media
okay.
and everything, because again, timing is funny. We had this when we had this idea initially. I was like, we got to get this out there tomorrow
Mm-hmm.
before people are sick of this, because like I said earlier, people were moving on so fast.
Yeah.
But what I also found out was, like, I remember I had this conversation with someone at CNN that was interested potentially we were talking about the game, and she said timing's a little early, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't appreciate that enough. I think when we were doing it, that was a real. Rudy did, I think but I was a rush,
You just wanted to get it
but
to market ASAP.
but
Yeah.
it's a real thing. I mean, I think that people really did have. There's a whole spectrum of, which is what we did try to account this for. But there's a whole spectrum of how people, deal
Planning.
with everything that happened.
Yeah.
But with the content, I'm saying, and so I think timing in terms of when people are ready to actually might be more receptive to a game like this is also a component.
Yeah.
So we've taken a little bit of time off. We also had some challenges on the social media, which I kind of alluded to. And now we're strategizing and working on a more disciplined kind of
Campaigning.
strategy campaign for social media and other ways of marketing
Yeah,
right
because I
now.
almost
Yeah.
think like as we talk about timing, resurfacing and pushing like a new campaign towards this is actually kind of cool, because we're X amount of years past COVID, right?
Right.
And so I think that there is opportunity to kind of leverage, okay, well, we're here today, we've experienced it, it's been a long time, and to go back in history, I think it's going to have that longevity piece. So I think the retention of COVID and the game and the concept, I mean, how you play on that from a content and a wording standpoint with your campaigns is going to be interesting to figure out, like,
Yeah.
what's resonating with the public. Like, are they like, oh, COVID is behind, I never want to see that word again? Or it's like, reminiscing, but we really don't want to reminisce on like an interesting time like that. But you kind of want to, maybe be tongue in cheek about how you push the content out, or, maybe leverage even some of the questions you have in your deck that could support,
Yeah.
to make people go inside and beyond just the name of it. It's like to actually see like some of the questions and what it's all about, to really kind of pull maybe newcomers in and maybe a different generation to come. So I think there's
Yeah.
lots of
No, absolutely.
opportunity.
No, we're excited. I mean, we're talking with different. We're talking through it now, and
Yeah.
I think it's opened up in certain ways because of everything you talked about. Time has
Mm-hmm.
moved on, and so yeah, we're trying to figure all that out. We're excited to get
Well, that's
we're
great.
excited to get pushing with it. That's why I'm so excited to talk about it with you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So last question. I mean, what is your biggest advice for anybody like wanting to kind of jump into this industry? And what is the biggest advice in terms of one key thing to make sure you do, and then one thing to kind of hinder them from making any kind of mistake?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Um, like I said, the I love this industry. I didn't tell you about it. It's on the Citizen Outbreak Instagram page. I went. There's a the trade show for the industry is called Gen Con. It's
Mm-hmm.
been around for a long time. And I went deep on this. I went out. It's in Indianapolis. 75,000 gamers
Wow.
in Indianapolis at Lucas, at the trade center there. And what's amazing about this industry is that it really is geared to accommodate first-time game creators. You talk to the manufacturers, you know, they really do supply. They're there to help you through the process. And you know, I remember walking through Gen Con. There was one guy there that had you know, a lot of games behind him. He had a stand, and you
Yeah.
know, to buy a whole stand there, you know, that costs money. And in the middle of the production process, I knew what each one of those games cost, and that he has that volume. I know he's doing well, and I know that he's profitable. And I
Yeah.
looked at him. It was a game for 3 or 4 year olds on identifying marine life
Yeah.
that he had, that was really cute, and the art was great. And this guy, I started talking to him. I said, how'd you come about this? He goes, me and my daughter were at the aquarium, and we were doing this, and she and I came up with this. Yeah, maybe it was a little older than 3 to 4, but
Yeah.
point is, that guy, I can tell you, he had volume behind him, so he's a successful game creator now. And what up on the next floor was a guy that the forward 5 year version of that guy that had multiple titles
Yeah.
and was able to rent out 2 rooms with many titles. And that's so. What am I saying? I'm saying that the industry is very is geared, supply chain full through,
Amazing.
from the marketing side of it, right? And you know, from Kickstarter and Backer Kit, which is a supplemental you know, platform to help you with fulfillment if you want to go that route. We did fulfillment with our manufacturer, but it really is up and down through the supply chain,
Yeah.
geared to invite newcomers, first time creators. So advice would be, you know, spend the time identifying these and talking with the different manufacturers. You're going to get over kind of, you know, when we first had this idea, we didn't know where to look. And it was like, where did I go? My first call got my terra firma that like there was comfort to move forward,
Yeah.
because, you know, it wasn't as daunting 10 minutes prior, you
Sure.
know, after a call. And, you know, from there, there's all kinds of, you know, if one decides to go Kickstarter, which I think is a great platform despite some of the challenges we had, you know, for this category. Case studies everywhere. Do your time, you know, spend your time figuring out what worked, what
Do the
didn't,
research.
and
Yeah.
you know, timing of when you launch is a big component.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, in getting the idea of when is the right time to launch and what activity do we need to do around that timing to know that that's the good time. I
Yeah.
think timing is a huge component,
Yeah.
but it's fun. This was really a lot of fun for me, and in it, you know, Rudy and I are now developing other game titles, also working on other businesses. I mean, I found a great business partner, also, you know,
Yeah.
amazing guy. His family got involved, and so it's really been a labor of love
Oh, I
and
love it.
passion and fun.
Yeah.
That you know, so the idea of investing in time to try and relaunch and make another push. People are still buying the game.
Yeah.
You know, I mentioned finance. You know, my day job, I'm in finance and I'm doing other stuff. My favorite part of my day right now is when I get a ding that I got
A purchase.
purchase on the website or Amazon. I'm
Yeah.
so psyched. I text Rudy and we text each other. I mean, you know,
Another one
I love it.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, hopefully
yeah,
those
I
turn
love it.
into like more dings throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, Matthew. Well, I really appreciate it. This has been so insightful. I mean, there's a lot of key takeaways from here. I'll make sure to kind of link your interview, like where people can purchase this on the podcast and like the social media handle, so everybody can kind of, you know, follow, get in touch, and you know, maybe purchase it and take a spin. I know I'm most likely going to take a spin with it on Friday with some friends, so I'll definitely
Oh,
keep you
amazing. I want to
posted.
hear what you think.
Yeah, totally. Well, I appreciate
Fantastic.
your time. Thank you again for joining.
Thank you so much, Sasha.
All
Good
right.
luck. Speak soon.